Let's talk about one of the most interesting reveals from the JJK epilogue, Yuta's grandkids. Who's their grandma, and more importantly, what's the potential significance of what's around his granddaughter's neck there? All right, so first of all, let's talk about the mystery of grandma, and I honestly don't know why this is a question. It is clearly Maki. I mean, this kid looks so much like a Zenin, it's not even funny. Just take a look at the eye shape, the face shape, the classic scowl, right? Like, we don't need the DNA test unless it's just to determine whether or not it was Maki or Megumi that was involved, because the resemblance here is uncanny. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if this kid has the 10 shadows. And Yuta fans don't fear because Pops' genes are also strong, as his granddaughter is basically a spitting image of him, which could point to why she is the one wearing Rika's ring around her neck. And this is Rika's ring because, as you can see, it's got this little gemstone or marking on the center of it, and you can also see that Gege drew that on her necklace here. So I think this has three interesting possibilities. One, it's just an heirloom, like a piece of jewelry and nothing more, but that's boring, and I don't think Gege would have necessarily included it if that's all it was going to be, right? So otherwise, it could be that it's an inherited curse technique passed down through Akotsu's bloodline, which would be super cool. Basically, just like the Limitless or just like the 10 Shadows, right? Now, that's a bit harder to make sense just because we know that Rika was originally a vengeful cursed spirit, but then she did become something else once Rika, the real Rika, passed on, but left Rika behind to still serve Akotsu. So is that something that could be inherited? Maybe, maybe not. So I think what maybe is even more likely is that this ring became a cursed tool, because we know in JJK that's one of the way cursed tools are made, is if they are continually used and infused with cursed energy and used to channel a technique, much like how Nanami's cleaver became a cursed tool that was ultimately wielded by Ino, right? So after a lifetime of Yuta wielding this ring, could it be a cursed tool that he has now passed down through his bloodline? And again, with how much she resembles Yuta, maybe it is inherited, right? Or maybe it's something that can only be wielded by certain people. That would certainly make sense, right? We know that Rika loved Yuta, so she may have to love whoever it is that's wielding her. Now, personally, I think the cursed tool angle makes a bit more sense with how we understand things in JJK, but I do think there's some interesting arguments to be made for the inherited technique side of things. Because one, we still don't really know in this universe how techniques originate, right? So maybe it is something crazy like with what happened with Yuta, or maybe he made some sort of binding vow, right, that made it become an inherited technique. Because one interesting question is, why does the granddaughter have this ring instead of one of Yuta's own kids, right? And there's a million reasons for this, right? Maybe his kids weren't sorcerers and the granddaughter is. Or if it is some level of inheritance, maybe she just had the correct genes to actually wield Rika, so she has the ring. Anyways, I just thought this was one of the coolest little details in the epilogue. So shout out to Scarlett for giving me an excuse to talk about it. And let me know down in the comments which way you think it might be going, inherited versus cursed tool. But Scarlett also said he wanted to mention that the Chainsaw Man movie trailer dropped and it was awesome. And I have only been hearing amazing things about it. I haven't watched it because I don't want to spoil myself, as I haven't read or seen Chainsaw Man, but it is absolutely something I plan on covering. I just want to get caught up on One Piece and Kagurabachi first, and then Chainsaw Man is probably next. And then Scarlett was also hoping to get some clarification on the whole Yuji's grandfather reveal from the volume extras. So here's how I understand it, that Wasuke, Yuji's grandfather, is the reincarnation of Sukuna's twin, right? Which would mean Jin was not the reincarnation of the twin. But it, depending on like how exactly that gets passed down, like maybe he had some elements or remnants, right? And then that was then passed down once more to Yuji, which made him suitable as a vessel, at least to some degree, right? So it was the grandpa that was like literally the reincarnation, and then that, had some effect, however negligible, on both Jin and then Yuji, I would presume. But yes, no one was the reincarnation of Sukuna because he never really died, right? He just became a cursed object, so his soul never like departed and had a chance to re-enter the cycle of rebirth. Just the twin. And then speaking of mini Zenin potentially having the 10 shadows technique, would that be possible if Megumi was still around? Could two people have the 10 shadows at once? I got this question from Perry that said, what would happen if two people had it? And I swear I've talked about this before, but for the life of me, I could not find the video. And it might be because I'm out of town for the holidays, so I'm not at my computer. But if I manage to find that video, I'm going to link it in response to you because I'm sure I go a bit more in depth there. But I personally believe that two people or multiple people could have the 10 shadows technique because in all of JJK, the only thing we've heard of that is unique and exclusive is the six eyes. So I would imagine if the 10 shadows was similar, we would have heard about it at some point, right? And we know that projection sorcery, another Zenin inherited technique, can be had by multiple people at once. So even though it's exceedingly rare, I do think it's possible for there to be two 10 shadows users at once. And it would certainly be crazy. Like, can you imagine Maharaga versus a Maharaga? Would that fight ever end? I mean, I guess not. So yeah, I think it would be really cool to see, but I know JJK's over, but I doubt it is something that Gege ever intended to do, but it should technically be possible. And then speaking of fun theoreticals, I got asked by Funkmaster Yin if I've ever thought about some potential domain expansions for characters that we never got to see them from. And yes, I think this is a super fun creative exercise. And I have at least one video where we talk about a potential domain for Todo, Inumaki, and Noritoshi Kamo, I believe. And I might have even done another video like that, but I can't remember. I'm going to link you the first one I referenced, though. And also, plug for the Discord if you're not a part of it, but we have a whole custom curse technique side of things over there. And it's not necessarily domains crafted for specific characters from JJK, but people just create their own domains. So if that type of custom creative thinking is something that's up your alley, I would definitely recommend checking it out. But for a couple of the characters you mentioned here, Nanami, I think his would have to be something about being a Japanese salaryman, right? Or since his, binding vow is overtime, maybe his domain is the 401k or the Roth IRA. And how exactly it would work, I don't know. I don't know why, but for some reason I picture a very busy commuter train with a bunch of business people on it. And I would imagine you're just getting critical strike left, right, and center. Now, I know that's not a very creative twist or anything, but I'm just not sure how to fully incorporate ratio into it. I'm more thinking aesthetics rather than function, but I think it would have been cool. I don't think he had a domain. If you said if he was possible to achieve one, theoretically, one day maybe, but considering he already was in his prime, as it were, he probably wasn't going to get a domain unless he survived long enough to do the body swap training, and then maybe that could have helped him push over the edge. But other than that, you also mentioned Miguel and Ino. I think Miguel's would be awesome if it was some sort of DDR, Dance Revolution challenge, and he's just out there doing all of his moves, and every time the opponent fails, maybe they're stacking up damage or something, or Miguel is just getting buffed and buffed and buffed. I think that would be really cool. And then Ino, I don't know, his technique is so cool with the seance. So maybe it would be something kind of spooky and occulty in that way, and maybe all four of the spirits would come out and he'd be able to use them at once, maybe even multiple versions of each one or something. Just a few kind of off the cuff ideas, but I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on all of these. Anyways, y'all, that's going to do it for this one. It's freaking Christmas, so Merry Christmas, y'all, and Happy Holidays. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I know this day isn't the best for everybody, so if that is you, I still hope you can carve out some time for yourself and find some peace this holiday. And if you decided to spend any of it with my dumbass watching this video, just know that I appreciate you so much. I love this community. It's been an absolute blessing and joy to me over the past year that I absolutely do not take for granted at all. So I just wanted to spend some time here today to say thank you guys, and I hope you're doing well. But for anybody that did haul in some loot this holiday, you better let me know down in the comments because I want to hear what you got. But until next time, y'all, thank you so much for watching.